Hi, my name is Sean with Greenhouse Kits One. Thank you for spending some time with us today. We're going to go over a few things to show you how to put together our greenhouse kits. Okay, so I'd like to go over some parts with you before we get started. This is a Tek screw. It's our short Tek screw, a small, and that gets used at all junctions. This is a large Tek screw, and this is called a wood to steel Tek screw. This puts on your perimeter base lumber, and if you have roll-ups, that will be your hip board. And they'll go in through the wood, and then they'll tap themselves into the steel, pancake head, that will be flush to the wood. The next part, it would be a purlin clamp. This is a saddle, and it goes over top of the hoop. This will be your hoop. And your purlin would fit in there just like a saddle, and you would have bolts that go through there and there, just like that. This is the next part. That is a brace band. It goes around the hoop and allows you to marry cross braces or wind bracing. Your end wall purlin clamp, and we use this one only on the end walls because it allows us to be flush with the end wall. If we use this purlin clamp on the end wall, then it has this much hangover and doesn't allow you to be flush. So we move to this one for the end walls only. The next piece of hardware is the T hardware, and this is for the drop down brace. And it'll actually fit on your drop down brace just like this here. And this, right there, that will be for your drop down brace. It will connect to your cross brace here, and at the other end will connect to your purlin. This is a sleeve. When you're placing your hoops, one side of your hoop will have a swage and the other side will not. You'll place this over top of the stake, like that. You'll place a Tek screw there. And then your hoop will plug in to that portion right there. And you'll also place another Tek screw right there. And this is a twist plate. And we have two different types. They both do the same job equally well. And it will mount to the top of your vertical lumber on your end wall, and this is what marries your end wall lumber to your end wall hoop. This will go around the hoop. This is your brace band. It will go around the hoop. This will screw to the side of your vertical lumber. There's holes there, and you're going to put a bolt right through here, and it marries the two. All right, the last piece of hardware is our end caps, and those will go on the cross braces and on your wind braces. All right, I'm going to take a few minutes and explain the steps to assemble our high tunnels. Step number one, this will be stakes. If you've ordered a 24 wide greenhouse, then your stakes will be 24 wide. If you order a 20 wide greenhouse, of course, it's 20 wide. Whatever the length that you have of your tunnel is also your other parameter. So if it's 24 by 60, then your stakes will be placed 24 wide and 60 long. These are the stakes. They're 40 inches long. They can be extended. However, to show you the appropriate distance to go into the ground, and if you plan on leaving an extension for the end of the stake to give yourself some additional head height, then this is the stake. 24 inches here will go into the ground. 16 inches will be stubbed out of the ground. And this will give you a 13.6 head height when you're using the 24 wide kits. Okay, so you're going to place one on the ground. You're going to use a sledge or a driver. If you hit rock and you beat them up, it's okay. You can cut them off. But the goal is to have all of the stakes on line and at the same height when we're done. So I would set the four corners, 24, let's say by 60 if that is the length of your greenhouse. And I would take a string line and go around the top edge of each of the stakes, pulling it taut all the way around. You've basically created a perimeter where you're about to build your structure. You're going to use that line for your height and to keep your stakes straight. So every 4 foot as you go down the long lines, you're going to drive every 4 feet to line and to height. This will give you a nice flat spot to plug into. We do allow up to about a 5% grade, and everything seems to fit correctly. If you get above the 5% grade, then parts stop working, not enough film, not long enough stakes. Okay, we are at step number two. Number two is the hoop stage. You will have 3 full bends, which are 126 inches each, and 1 half bend. and it's about 66 inches. We're gonna put the 3 together, and we're gonna use the swedged ends and the non-swedged ends to plug them all together. I'm gonna place those 2 together, and I'm gonna put a Tek screw right here. Okay, so at every junction, we will place this small Tek screw. There's no drilling. It has a self-tapping tip on the end, and so I'll show you how this works. That's it. Yeah, make sure you do not place the Tek on top, because this is reserved for our film. Make sure you place it here on the side or the bottom. Okay, I'm gonna do it a few more times. Okay, so here we have the hoop laid out. It is 3 full radiuses and 1/2 radius. And a question that I get a lot is, what sequence? Does it matter where the half hoop goes? And the answer is, it does not matter on the hoop itself. However, I would like for you to stay the same throughout the whole project. If it's on the right-hand side of the hoop, then make sure that they're on the right-hand side all the way down the hoop house. We're getting ready to set this hoop into stakes, and we are basically going to plug this swedge. You have a single swedge here. We're going to plug that into the stake. And on the far end, you're going to notice, even though it's a 24 wide house, or 20, whatever you purchased, you're going to notice that it's slightly over. And so if you have a 24 wide house, you're going to notice this lands at 26 or 27 feet. We've done that on purpose. We would like tensile strength added to the hoop design. It makes a prettier hoop and also a stronger hoop. And I'd like for you to show you what that looks like right here. And notice how I push this in, what the hoop does. And there you have it. You see, this is a 24-foot width, and you can see that it's a much tighter and sprung hoop. Okay, and so if this stake was put into the ground and this hoop was into the air, you would see that swedge there does fit into that stake. A Tek screw would go on the inside. Okay, so here's the other side. Notice it does not have a swedge. So here's the stake that's in the ground. And remember, this side has a sleeve on it. You would have a Tek screw there on the inside. Now this hoop will plug into that sleeve. You would put a Tek screw here. You'd have one there and one there. The outside is reserved for the perimeter base lumber and the film, so we'd never put one out there. Everything goes on the inside. Our next step, we have our stakes into place. We have our hoops put up, and we are ready to put our purlin in. The purlin is a straight piece of steel that runs right down the middle of the greenhouse on the inside, and this will connect hoop to hoop to hoop. Here's how this is installed. This is a purlin bracket or purlin saddle, and essentially, if this is the hoop, it fits over the hoop, and the purlin slides right in there. You'll put a bolt there and there, and that's how it comes together. Okay, so here's how it works. On the end walls, we'll use these end wall purlin clamps. We don't like for there to be hangover, and so we like a nice flush end wall. So if we use these are great. They go on the remainder of the purlins. However, on the end walls themselves, that one there will be used. The easiest way to go about it is I would put a string line from hoop number 1 right at dead center. 24 foot wide, it's at the 12 foot mark, top dead center. Put a string line all the way down through the greenhouse long ways on the inside. You can use this to follow with the purlin to keep everything looking nice. You're gonna set your end wall purlin clamp first, and if you're by yourself, I would do one at a time, one stick at a time. If you have a group, then that's different. Then you are able to place the purlin itself on the ground, screw it all together, and then raise the whole thing. But most folks don't have that. So here's what the purlin looks like. It will come in a bundle like this, a pack of purlins. It'll be written purlin right here on the plastic. It will have a swaged end, just like this here, on one end of it, and the other end will be female. If you have a kit that is 60 feet long, you would get 6 of these 10 footers. I'm gonna use this stake here, just so you can kind of see how the junctions work. This would be another 10 footer, another 10 footer, another 10 footer, but sort of show you they plug together the same way that the hoops did, and you would put a small Tek screw right there. Now you have purlin number 1, which is your very center purlin. It runs all the way down, it's complete. You could at this point put purlin number 2, purlin number 3 in the same exact way that you put purlin number 1 in. However, if you go to hoop number 2, you can put your first cross brace in, and this will allow you or give you an idea where to place purlin 2, where to place purlin 3. And I'm going to give you an example of that. On the cross bracing, we're going to jump to cross bracing. Step number 4. A cross brace on a 24 watt kit will be a full 126 inch piece, which is a full one here. And it'll be a 60 inch piece, just like that right there. So you plug the two of them together, you're just going to get just over 15 feet. And you would use the same tech screw right there. So you have 15 feet now of cross brace with a tech screw here holding it together. How are we going to mount that to the hoops? We're going to use cross brace end caps. These are going to fit right on the end. And we're going to put a tech screw right there. This is a very important tech screw. It helps to hold with loads. This is what goes around your hoop. You're going to be able to put a bolt right in there. That goes around the hoop. This is your cross brace. And that's what it looks like. Okay? You're going to get one exactly the same on the far end. Right there. You're going to put a tech screw in, and that goes around your hoop. Just like that. The reason we took this sequence is if we place that cross brace, put it into position, we will know where to put number 2, number 3 purlin. So I always put the cross brace in, and now you can go just above the cross brace on the far right, just above the cross brace on the far left, and it seems to work out perfectly. With the cross brace, we do not do the drop down on this step, even though that's part of the cross bracing. We hold off on the drop down step. So you have your full and your half piece with a cross brace end cap on both ends and a brace band on both ends, okay? At this point, within our structure, we have our stakes in, our hoops up, a purlin down the center. We have our cross braces in. We do not get cross braces on the end walls. It's all interior hoops. The reason why we don't get cross braces on the end walls is because this area is reserved for vertical lumber, your end wall lumber. So we have all of our cross braces in, all the way down through the kit, and we are ready now to put our purlin number 2 and purlin number 3 into place. So we go back and use the same exact hardware, and we will show you this picture here that you can see both sets of hardware, and the whole entire junction is shown very clearly in this pic right here. Okay, so we have now all the cross braces in, and we have now the number 2 and number 3 purlin set. We are down to our last step as far as the steel goes. We are now ready for step number 5. We're down to basically our wind bracing, and wind bracing is an easy one. It fits on the corners. In construction terms, this would be a kicker. It's essentially 60 inches long, and this would be a wind brace, and it will require the same hardware that the cross brace used. And so this will set on the end wall on your 4 corners. This will be your end wall hoop, and this guy will plug in right like that, and that will go around the hoop. On the other end, this would go to the base of hoop number 2, and this guy here will be flipped the other way. Instead of like this, he'll be flipped upward, and he will hook on to hoop number 2 like that. So what you have there is when the wind hits your end walls, horizontal winds, this helps with the shimmy. And the high side should be to the outside on the 4 corners. Okay, that is wind bracing. Okay, step number 6. The very last thing that we are going to assemble is our drop down steel. There is not an exact distance I can give. There's not a calculation I can do, because they all seem to be a little bit different. If folks happen to get it 23/11 on their width, and some folks get 24/2, 24/1, well, my height of that drop down steel changes. So I have to give you a piece that has to be cut for that. So here's the easiest way to do this. You would measure where your drop down, where your cross brace is, and you will measure from your purlin down to your cross brace. And you will cut that from the steel that says drop down steel, and it'll look just like this. It'll look much like the purlins did. It'll say drop down steel. It'll look just like this. Once we have made that cut, this is called T-hardware. The easiest way to explain it is this would be your cross brace. That would be your purlin. This is how you hook to your purlin. These go here. And that would go up around your purlin. On the other end, if this was your cross brace, that's how your cross brace hooks up. This is important if you get a lot of snow, a lot of wind. This is an important hookup. And so a lot of folks will put Tek screws, which is fine to do, but once you have everything installed and put into place, it is best to drill through there and put a heavy bolt in it. So we have the steel portion completed, and we are now ready for end walls. So my high tunnel kits are left open with regards to end walls. We have so many different requests for different styles that we found. You know, double doors drive in with a tractor, single door. Some folks want film, some want a more solid material. And so we have found that leaving that open is the best way to approach it. We also request that something is put into place, and leaving zero there is not acceptable. Using 6 pieces of vertical lumber across your 24 wide is adequate. We do ask that whatever you use, 2x6, 4x4 on your end wall, that whatever is left and right of the doorway is put into concrete. This helps with horizontal winds when the winds are smacking the end walls, to have those two put into concrete. Now, if you don't get huge amounts of winds, then it is not necessary to put the additional vertical lumber in concrete. If you live in the north, get lots of snow, lots of wind, then use 4x4s and please set everything into concrete. Okay, so now once we have everything set, you've determined where they're going to set by reverting back to step 1. The perimeter string line that we have wrapped around the greenhouse now goes across the end. It's still sitting there. So we can use that to determine our line on all of our vertical lumber. If you have a 6-foot door, then of course you're going to have a 6-foot spot right in the center. Then you're going to place a 4x4 and a 4x4 on the other side. And then you're going to space off of that to your end wall evenly. And so we provide this piece of hardware. It's called a twist plate. This attaches to the top portion of your vertical lumber. This wood screws right into here. If you're using a 4x4, that would smack onto the top of your 4x4. You put screws into it. This is what will marry that vertical 4x4, 2x6, whatever you're using, to the end wall hoop. And so that will go around your end wall hoop like that, and you'll put a bolt through it. This works great. So that is your end wall twist plate hardware that will complete that section. Okay, we have our structure, all the steel portion completed, and we have now the vertical end wall lumber in place, and we're ready to move on to step number 8. If you have chosen a greenhouse, a 4-season model that does not have roll-ups, then you will need perimeter-based lumber on the outside of the greenhouse, down your long sides and across your 2 end walls. This perimeter-based lumber will meet the ground and the stake on the outside, and you will apply it using this Tek screw. It's 2 3/4 inch. It's called a wood to steel Tek screw. It has a pancake and Phillips head, but there's no pre-drill. So you would lay the board on the outside at the ground level, and you would use this to tap in through the wood. It will take 2 of these per hoop. So I would go all the way around the greenhouse and install your perimeter lumber. Now, if you have roll-ups, a secondary board has to be installed down your long walls. It will be at around 4 foot in height. Actually, you have a little choice on it. 4 or 5 feet is fine. It's called your hip board. It will be applied in the same fashion, the same wood to steel Tek screw. That will get you ready for your next step, which is the film. Okay, step number 9. This is called base lock channel or wiggle wire channel. And this is what's used to install or hook the film to the structure. It's aluminum, and it will go all the way around the perimeter base of the structure on all 4 sides. It will go on the face of the 2x, and you will apply it with the short Tek screws, the 3/4 Tek screws. It does not set up on top. It sets on the side, just like this, and you will use a Tek screw about every 1 foot to go right into this point right here. Tek screw that in just like that, about every 1 foot. Okay. Once this is placed, there's one more position that this has to go, and this position is your end wall hoops. It will go up and over your 2 end wall hoops only, not your interior hoops. If your hoop is headed up and headed over, you're going to place this at the base of the hoop on the perimeter lumber, and you're going to put a short Tek screw right in through the hoop from aluminum to the steel hoop directly. You just take your hand up here and you'll push it over and it'll mold. This is aluminum. It'll mold right to the hoop. So every 1 foot, you're gonna come up and place a Tek screw all the way up and over that hoop. So the channel will face to the sky. Both ends get it, both end wall hoops get it, okay? Before we jump to the film step, I just wanna show how this locks the film into place. Now that this has been installed, you'll lay the film over the top of this, over the face of this, and this is where it gets its name, wiggle wire. It will start just like this. You're basically placing it over the film, and you're gonna wiggle the wire back in. Just like that. And that has pinched your film into place. It did not penetrate it. So if you ever wanted to take it back off, to tighten your film, to change out your film, well, this base lock system allows you to do that. Okay, this is our last step. We have everything into place. From our end walls to our wiggle wire channel, base lock channel, everything is ready, and we are gonna walk around and check the structure, make sure there's no sharp edges sticking out. If you do have an open sharp edge out in the middle, I would file on that, but typically in the format that we've done everything, there's typically not an issue with cutting film. Once you know that everything's been checked, you're able to lay out your film. You will, and depending upon the size of the kit, you will cut your 2 top pieces first. If you have a 4-season double layer kit, let's use a 24 by 60 for an example. You have a 100-foot roll of film, 40 wide by 100. On one side of the greenhouse, you're gonna roll your film out. You're gonna leave about 2 feet before you take off, and then when you get to the other end of the tunnel, you're gonna cut it 2 feet long. So you're about 4 feet longer with your film. You're just gonna leave your roll of film sitting there once you've made the cut. You're gonna come around to the other side of the greenhouse. You're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna unroll it and cut it, so you have about 4 extra feet. So you're gonna leave both of those there, but you have now just cut loose 2 end walls for yourself. The remaining portion of that roll is gonna be your end wall, and that's what will get installed first. From the outside of your tunnel, facing your end wall is here, and I'm looking at the greenhouse. You're gonna start your top dead center. You're gonna take your cut off pieces of film, which are your end walls, and come to the outside of the end wall. You're gonna lay the film up and over it, and you're gonna place your first piece of wiggle wire, pinching your film into that channel. Whoever you have as a helper, whether it be on the right-hand side at the base of your end wall hoop, you're gonna have them pull down, apply some pressure. You're just gonna wiggle the wire down to them, and now you have taken slack out of that half of your end wall. So you're gonna have them come around to this side, the other side, and have them pull against you. You're gonna go back to your top dead center, and you're gonna wiggle down to them. Now you have treated it a lot like leather working, where they start in the dead center and they work their way outward. You're tight with the film left to right, and so now you're ready to go to your perimeter base on your end wall and pull down on the film and then wiggle your wire in. So when you're done, you wanna be able to flick the film and sound like a drum. That's what we're after. So don't cut anything loose at this point. You do have your end wall complete. You're gonna go to the far end wall, and you're going to mimic exactly what you've done on this end wall. So we are now with 2 end walls completed. Don't cut anything loose, and now you're ready to put your 2 top pieces of film on. So, with help, and do this on a low wind day, less than 8 or 10 miles per hour wind. The film will accordion open, and you will pull the film up and over your tunnel, and you will place it to where you have a little hangover on all corners. You're gonna let it set just for a moment. You're not gonna tie it down yet. You're gonna grab your second piece of film. You're gonna pull it up over in the same fashion. So now you have 2 pieces of film ready to be put down. Okay, so you're gonna go back to your end wall, just like you did on your end wall film, and you're gonna stand in the same location on the outside of your greenhouse facing your end wall. You're gonna go into the same piece of channel. You're gonna apply your first piece of wiggle wire over top of those 2 pieces of film and wiggle it the same way. You're gonna start your top dead center. You're gonna have someone down at the bottom of that end wall pulling down. You're gonna wiggle down to them just like you did on the end walls. You go back to your top dead center, you do it to the left. So you've done it both sides, you're nice and tight. At this point in time, don't cut anything loose. Go to the far end of your greenhouse. When you get down there, you're gonna go to your top dead center, and you're gonna reach under the bottom layer. You're gonna lift the top layer up and reach under the bottom layer, and you're gonna pull all your slack from it. Let go of it, grab your top layer, pull all your slack from it. Now grab both pieces of film and give it all you've got. that nice tight glass look that you see as you stare down it is what you're after. You're going to place your piece of wiggle wire in that top dead center piece, and then whoever you have assisting you down on the ground, they're going to pull lengthwise and downwise away from you in order to get it taut in both directions. You're going to wiggle down to them. You're going to repeat that one last time, come back to your top dead center, and then they're going to come around this side, pull lengthwise and downwise, and you're going to wiggle down to them. So everything at this point in time, your ear walls are tight. Your top piece is tight lengthwise. Now the only thing we have left to do is do your long sides. So if it's a 60-foot greenhouse in length, you're going to walk to your 30-foot point, and you're going to wiggle your first piece of wire into your perimeter base lumber where you've installed your wiggle wire channel. You don't want to pull against your film yet because you have nothing to pull against on the far side. So place one piece of wiggle wire in, travel to the other side of your greenhouse to the same 30-foot point. Now you can pull against it. So you're now pulling taut in the width direction. So now you're able to just keep going, working back and forth and working your way to your end walls, and all of your wrinkles should be removed from doing it in this sequence. When you're complete, you are now ready to go inside and cut all your excess film away. I would like for you to leave about 1.5 inches of film. This offers you choices. So if you were to cut that film up to the wiggle wire, you can never re-grab it to tighten it. If you decide to unwiggle your wire, pull it taut, you can't grab it. So if you leave yourself about 1.5 inches, it won't flap, and it'll give you choices down the road if you ever decide to do something different with the film. Okay, here we are now down to our very last step. I wanted to kind of briefly go over this inflator system. This is not an exhaust fan system. I know some folks get confused with that one, but this is merely to inflate the two layers, and it offers a higher R value and reduced condensation. And for certain crops, that's really important. Okay, so here's how this works. Once everything is complete, you have your kit, all your film in place, you can come in on double layer systems only, which is our 4-season kit, our NRCS kit. Our fully braced kits do not have them. Our base model kits do not have them. And this is a diffuser. This is the mounting bracket. This would be your hoop. This would come in and attach around the hoop with a Tek screw. Just shoot right into hoop number 2. Your film would be sitting here. So if you place this on hoop number 2, which is 4 feet from the end, you can unwiggle your wire and reach your arm in between the two layers and place this diffuser. This blows the wind left and right and allows the top layer to sit there on top of the diffuser. So now you're able to go back to your end wall hoop and button that back down with your wiggle wire to close the hole. You're able to now go inside and mount this inflator directly to the bracket. And so you can notice there's 3 holes here, and they will go right over top of that there. So that's how you mount it to your hoop. Basically just mounts with 3 nuts to this mounting bracket, and that's what holds it up. If you'll look here on the far side, there's only 2 size blower kits. There's for a small and a large. It has a gate here on the side, so if you're wanting all of its power, you'll have that gate all the way open. If you're only wanting to use part of it, you can close it down like this. The best way to know is to open it about halfway and turn your blower on for the first time, and you just want to feel the film, and when it's nice and tight, if it's getting too much, then you can always pull this back a hair. If it's not enough, of course you can open it some more. But that is how you install your inflator fan. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If you have questions, feel free to contact us. The information will be below.